what? Tekken?
Yeah, man, let's get it on. Let's do it.
How you doing? You alright? I'll catch you later.
Cool.
You idiot.
It's like being in a nightmare you can't wake up from.
What, Dad?
Alright, Robbie. Wicked.
Whatever.
Red.
Get ready! I got visuals on the phone. Got you now, Straggler.
Sit. Yes,
Sony Playstation. The name PlayStation is so synonymous with video games. Everyone has heard of PlayStation, and they are one of the most successful video game companies on the planet, but it wasn't always like that. Sony, as a company, was primarily an electronics gadget manufacturer. They are famous for making the Sony Walkman. They also made some really nice TVs back in the day, and they make some audio systems and computer parts as well. They even ventured into cell phones at one point. But eventually they would get into the world of video games. The PlayStation was the brainchild of Ken Kutaragi, a Sony executive who managed one of the company's hardware engineering divisions and was later dubbed the father of the PlayStation. The inception of what became the PlayStation dates all the way back to 1988 with a joint venture between Nintendo and Sony. Nintendo had already produced floppy disk technology to complement cartridges in the form of the Family Computer Disk System, and they wanted to continue this complementary storage strategy for the Super Nintendo. Ken Kutaragi convinced Nintendo on using his SPC 700 sound processor for use in the Super Nintendo console through a really impressive demonstration of the processor's capabilities. This created a working relationship between the two companies. Since Sony was already contracted to produce the sound processor for the Super Nintendo, Nintendo approached Sony to develop a CD-ROM add-on tentatively titled the PlayStation, or SNES CD. A contract was signed, and so work began. Development of a prototype was well underway when Nintendo unexpectedly backed out of the project. That project made it far enough that actual development prototypes were created and still exist today, These go for a lot of money on eBay or on other auction sites because of their place in video game history. Irritated by Nintendo's renouncement, Sony instead approached Sega with an idea to produce a standalone console. Sega's CEO at the time, Tom Kalinske, took the proposal to Sega's board of directors in Tokyo, but they promptly vetoed the idea. Sony president Norio Aha recognized the potential in Kutaragi's PlayStation idea and decided that Sony would just develop its own console. They had the capital to do so and jumped in without any partnerships from Nintendo or Sega. The PlayStation would release in North America on September 9th, 1995. Sony famously announced the price point at CES.
$299.
The PlayStation would launch $100 cheaper than its closest competitor at the time, the Sega Saturn. This would go on to be a major reason why the PlayStation would succeed over the Saturn. As a fifth-generation console, the PlayStation primarily competed with the Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64. The PlayStation launched with approximately 10 games in the United States. These titles were Air Combat, Aquanauts Holiday, Battle Arena Toshinden, Jumping Flash, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, Rayman, Ridge Racer, Street Fighter the Movie, Total Eclipse, and Zero Divide. Ridge Racer was a huge hit for them, as it was an arcade-perfect port. Unlike Daytona USA, which had numerous technical issues on the Sega Saturn, this was the first time you could really get the arcade experience at home. Other noticeable games for the PlayStation would later include games like Grand Theft Auto, the Metal Gear Solid franchise, and Final Fantasy. So let's get into some technical specifications. The main microprocessor is a 32-bit LSI R3000 CPU with a clock rate of 33.86 MHz. The CPU relies heavily on the COP2 3D and Matrix Math coprocessor on the same die to provide the necessary speed to render complex 3D graphics. Sony's custom 16-bit sound chip supports PCM sources with up to 24 sound channels and offers a sampling rate of up to 44.1 kHz and MIDI sequencing. The system features 2 MB of main RAM with an additional 1 MB being allocated to video memory. The PlayStation utilized a proprietary video compression unit called MDC, which was integrated into the CPU. This allowed for the presentation of full-motion video at much higher quality than other consoles of its generation. Sony marketed the PlayStation as a video game console for teenagers and adults wanting to differentiate themselves from the more family-friendly tone of Nintendo consoles. This allowed developers more freedom to come up with more creative video game concepts, as they were no longer censored when it came to more violent or adult-oriented games that Nintendo would not allow on their console at the time. Another big reason why developers would be enticed by the PlayStation is because of the use of CD-ROMs instead of cartridges. A PlayStation disc could hold approximately 660 megabytes and would only cost about $1 to $2 to manufacture, while the Nintendo 64 cartridges maxed out at only 64 megabytes and reportedly cost around $30 per cartridge for manufacturing and royalties combined. Coupled with the higher storage capacity and technical capabilities that the PlayStation console afforded them, most developers would jump ship from Nintendo to Sony. Most notable, Squaresoft, which was one of Nintendo's biggest software developers at the time. The PlayStation would go on to sell over 100 million units worldwide, making it one of the most successful consoles of all time, and become the juggernaut that we know it to be today. And all because Nintendo backed out of a deal with them.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Pack up your stuff. I got a little surprise for you here. Check it out. What do you think about that? We got real-time, 3D, lush organic environments. How's that make you feel, buddy? Feel a little like your days are numbered?
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
You're hurting my elbow.
I can only imagine what the current market would look like if those two had joined up, but I guess we'll never know. That's going to do it for me today, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, I appreciate it. Thanks.